Jacek Piwowarczyk and Cynthia Lee. English in My Backpack. Volume 2. Adventures Down Under. Buddhist Fat Ho Memorial College, 2009. Preface. We dedicate this book to Mr. Mac Tim Ming, who has inspired us to keep climbing, even when we think we've reached the top. We thank him for his support and encouragement, and wish him all the best as he begins his new adventure. It is said that the final test of a leader is that he leaves behind him in other people the conviction and the will to carry on. We promise him that he has left these gifts with us. Adventures Down Under. Introduction.
You are holding the second book of the series, English in My Backpack. I hope you enjoyed African Safari. Now it's time to move forward. This time I want to take you on a journey to another part of our beautiful world, to the land down under. The term down under is a colloquialism, language usually used in informal conversation, referring to Australia and New Zealand. Can you guess why? It is because both countries are entirely located within the southern hemisphere. These two countries have so much to offer the adventurous traveler. I spent 7 weeks discovering them, just enough time to appreciate some of their many, many treasures. Why adventures? It means exciting and rather dangerous activities. Indeed, we will talk about some of them. Most importantly, though, we invite you to try the many challenging English learning adventures when you travel with us around this beautiful and fascinating part of the world. Look into my eyes, or rather, my sunglasses. What do you see? A reflection. Just as my sunglasses reflect what I see, I hope this book, through my pictures and words, will adequately reflect how I see the world.
A natural traffic jam on Mount Cook Road. Part 1. Australia. When choosing a photograph for the Australian chapter title page, I wanted to use a picture which represented the whole country. Finally, I decided to use the one on the opposite page that I took in Kakadu National Park. Look carefully. What do you see in the water? It is a crocodile, of course. Why did I choose that picture? Well, when I think of Australia, Crocodile Dundee immediately comes to mind, probably because it is the most famous Australian movie I know about. Do I look like Mike Dundee? Geography. Australia is a huge landmass located entirely in the southern hemisphere. It is one of the 7 continents on Earth. Continents usually consist of many different countries, but Australia is just one country. It includes many small islands. The largest of them is Tasmania. You can find it on the map on the previous page. Sometimes Australia, New Zealand, and the small islands of the Pacific and Indian Oceans are referred to as Oceania. The Australian continent can be divided into 3 main regions. Its center is an extremely dry, low-lying plain. The western parts of Australia are large areas of high and flat land, known as plateaus. These 2 vast and almost uninhabited regions are often known as the outback. Along the whole eastern coast runs a rocky mountain chain, forming Australia's most distinctive geographical feature, the Great Dividing Range. In fact, it is not a single mountain range, but a series of smaller ranges. Its highest part is called the Snowy Mountains, which include Mount Kosciuszko, Australia's tallest mountain, reaching 2,228 meters. I have never been there, but it is close to my heart because it was first climbed in 1840 by Edmund Strzelecki, a Polish explorer. He named it after Tadeusz Kościuszko, a very famous Polish national hero. In case you did not know, I am Polish. This picture was taken from the top of Uluru,
one of the country's symbolic icons. Both spectacular rock formations, Uluru and Katachuta, ponderously rise above the dry plains of central Australia.
Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains, pictured on the right, are part of the Great Dividing Range. The dense forests of eucalyptus covering their slopes release small droplets of oil. As a result, the mountains appear to be covered with a thin blanket of blue haze, creating a very unique visual effect. The views are breathtaking. Over millions of years, two rivers have intensively cut into the sandstone, creating rugged valleys, sheer cliffs, deep gorges, and spectacular rock formations, such as the Three Sisters. Silver ribbons of water drop from the cliffs into pools that are surrounded by lush gardens of ferns and mosses.
Australian vegetation. Rainforests. The most complex and diverse ecosystem on Earth. Home to around 18,000 species of plants. 2,000 species are not found anywhere else in the world. Cover only 0.3% of the continent. Dry regions. Shrubs and grass cover many of Australia's desert plains and semi-dry regions. Plants developed unique and special features to survive in such difficult and harsh conditions. Open woodlands. Woodlands cover the eastern slopes of the Great Dividing Range, the southwest and southeast, and are known as Australian bush. Eucalyptus or gum tree woodlands provide food for koalas. There are 500 different types of eucalyptus. Marine life. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the natural wonders of the world, supporting over 10,000 species. Coral reefs create beautiful underwater scenery. Animals of Australia. Australian animals are different from creatures living on other continents. Do you know why? In the beginning, there was only one huge landmass in the world, called Gondwana. About 120 million years ago, it began breaking up into the different continents. Australia broke away from Antarctica and became completely isolated. Gradually, animals and plants living there evolved and developed differently from those in the rest of the world. Australia's most unique animals are the marsupials. When their young are born, they instinctively crawl into their mother's pouch and stay there until they are large enough to survive on their own. The strange-looking animal on the top right corner of this page is called the platypus. It is an egg-laying mammal, has a duck-like bill, and wide, flat tail. It only lives in Australia. The furry animal on the left is called the wombat. It is a marsupial herbivore, or plant eater. It digs burrows to live in. Koalas. This cute and cuddly little creature is called the koala. Koalas are also known as Australian bears. In fact, they are not bears, but are also marsupials. They live on eucalyptus, known as gum trees, all over eastern Australia. They only eat eucalyptus leaves. Koalas live very slow lives, sleeping for about 20 hours a day. Look at the koala. It has thick, soft, grayish fur, large furry ears, little eyes, and a rounded black nose. Kangaroos. The kangaroo is the largest marsupial. Roos, as they are often called, live in the forests and bushlands of Australia and Tasmania. The family includes many smaller species, such as wallabies and wallaroos. Look at the pictures of the kangaroos. They have large, powerful legs with long feet that let them hop up to 74 kilometers per hour and cover 12 meters in a single bound. Their long, muscular tails help them keep their balance. They also have relatively small heads, large ears, and very short arms. The soft, woolly fur can be gray, red, black, yellow, or brown, depending on the species. Like all marsupials, female kangaroos have a pouch for carrying their young, who usually stay there for up to 8 months. A baby kangaroo is called a joey. Kangaroos are herbivores. They eat grass, leaves, and roots. They need little water, and they can go for months without drinking. When they do get thirsty, but there is no water around, they use their strong paws to dig their own water wells. Sydney. Is Sydney the capital of Australia? Certainly not. However, with a population of over 4 million, it is the largest, oldest, and most cosmopolitan city in the country. It was built around a beautiful natural harbor, which not only gives Sydney its nickname, the Harbour City, but also creates its special character. The harbor can be especially appreciated from the air, as most of the commercial airplanes circle around it before landing at the airport. One of the 2 best-known Sydney landmarks is the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Built in 1932, the bridge plays an important role for Sydney residents by connecting the commercial heart of the city with its northern suburbs. Look at the picture below. The striking view of the bridge, the harbour, and the Sydney Opera House has become the internationally recognizable symbol of Australia, especially famous for the spectacular New Year's Eve fireworks displays. Have you ever watched them on TV? The Sydney Opera House is not only the most recognizable building in Sydney, but also one of the most unusual human-made structures in the world. It was designed by renowned Danish architect Jørn Utzon and opened in 1973 after 14 years of challenging construction. Admire at its beautiful and innovative design. The white, rounded, and soaring roofs are supposed to resemble a ship in full sail. This picture was taken from Mrs. Macquarie's Point, probably the city's best viewpoint of both the Sydney Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. There are many more attractions in Sydney. One of them is the Rocks, the city's historic quarter, where the first British settlers landed in 1788 and the story of modern Australia began. There are also many beautiful beaches along the east coast, including Australia's most famous, Bondi Beach. Magnetic Island. Just offshore from the city of Townsville in Queensland is beautiful Magnetic Island. The island was given its name because of some problems with the compass belonging to the famous Captain Cook when he was passing by while sailing up the east coast of Australia in 1770. He believed that the newly discovered piece of land had a magnetic force that interfered with his instruments. Tests conducted later on proved that Captain Cook was wrong, but the name Magnetic Island remained. The island's rocky, mountainous skeleton nicely blends with the turquoise, tranquil bays and sandy beaches. The hills are dotted with rounded rocks and magnificent pine trees, creating a dramatic coastline. The eucalyptus woods provide a peaceful home to one of the largest colonies of koalas living in the wild.
Have you figured out why I went to this island that is off the beaten track? Yes, I was on a koala quest. For me, the adventure of looking for animals in the wild is incomparable to any zoo experience. My anticipation grew as the narrow path I was on gently climbed the slopes of Mount Cook, the highest mountain on the island. The views were staggering, and almost every turn brought new aesthetic delights. When the eucalyptus forest thickened, I began to carefully look around. Then I was looking for, just next to the trail, was a cute koala, comfortably sleeping wedged into a gum tree, completely still for some time, as koalas are. Then she opened her eyes, yawned, moved to another place, and fell asleep again. Mission accomplished.
Great Barrier Reef. The picturesque city of Cairns, with thousands of sailboats in its harbor, is an excellent place for an underwater adventure. The Great Barrier Reef, stretching for about 2,000 kilometers along the Queensland coast, is the largest coral reef system in the world. The skeletons of tiny animals called polyps create the colorful coral structures. The diversity of life along the Great Barrier Reef is extraordinary. It is another example of nature's precious gifts. However, we must remember that it is also a fragile ecosystem that is easily damaged by careless visitors. Furthermore, some research findings suggest that global warming is seriously threatening the reefs. One day, if we do not protect them, they may even disappear forever. That would be more than a shame. It would be a dire warning and a colossal loss.
Snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef was a truly unforgettable experience for me. The Hastings Reef is an incredible place. It drops deeply into the ocean, creating beautiful coral canyons and caves. Along the steep edges, I saw swirling schools of small fish that drew rainbows as they crisscrossed, giant wise-looking fish slowly moving along, graceful gentle turtles, and even some friendly sharks. I will never forget the feelings of fear and delight as I swam within a few meters of these awesome creatures. What a sight!
Every minute I have spent scuba diving has felt magical. It's not seeing underwater rainbows of fish, sitting in the middle of schools of swirling barracudas, or lying on the ocean floor 2 meters from a tiger shark that always lure me to depths of up to 40 meters. No, it is not what I see, but how I feel. As my body is suspended, time is marked, and the silence is broken only by the sound of my own breath. The oxygen that keeps me alive reminds me of how out of place I am, while at the same time the feeling of tranquility makes me believe that I was born to live there. There is nothing quite like it. If the earth is our mother, then her oceans are her womb. Alas, when the oxygen gets low, it's time to surface to the real world. What do I do when I want to return to the womb? I put my head underwater in my bathtub and imagine I'm there.
Kakadu National Park. Kakadu National Park is a place of exceptional beauty. It is a vast area located around the northern tip of Australia's Northern Territory, called the Top End. Every journey to the park begins from the city of Darwin, the territory's capital. From there, most of the visitors proceed to Cooinda, where they can stay for a few nights while traveling to different parts of the park. What is so special about Kakadu? The main attractions of the park are the unique flora and fauna and its stunning, diverse landscape. There are stony plateaus, vertical red cliffs, and impressive waterfalls. They contrast with the floodplains, long twisting rivers, small water channels, and shallow lakes known as billabongs. The diverse environment of Kakadu is home to an amazing array of plants and animals. Many of them are found nowhere else in the world. The animals most likely to be seen are birds. As a matter of fact, more than 1/3 of all Australian bird species live there. The white birds in the two pictures above are cousins of our very own Tai-O egrets, which you can often see in the pond outside our school fence. The third photograph was taken in Tai-O. The two large birds in the fourth picture are the black-necked storks, or jabiru. They can be as tall as 137 centimeters, have massive black bills, and only live in Australia.
The best way to see Kakadu is from the water. It was still dark when I boarded my boat. "Welcome to Yellow Waters," said the ranger with a typical Australian accent. The boat moved and quietly slipped into the thick blanket of the morning fog. No one dared to say a word, and only squeaky bird songs could be heard in the distance. Gradually the sun began rising over the horizon. I was stunned by a symphony of lights and colors performed by nature. Look at the pictures on these 2 pages. I hope I have managed to preserve the magical dawn atmosphere of Kakadu. I saw thousands of birds as the boat traveled around the wetlands. Suddenly it stopped. People surrounding me raised their voices with excitement. I looked outside the boat. We were surrounded by huge saltwater crocodiles.
Kakadu Aboriginal art. Aboriginal people have lived in Kakadu for thousands of years. They used to live in rock shelters and recorded their way of life by painting on the walls. The best examples of Aboriginal rock art can be found on the cave entrances and large overhangs of Norlangi and Uber rocks. The paintings depict animals, some X-ray style showing their skeletons and internal organs, mythological figures, spirits, weapons, foreign settlers, etc. Aboriginal culture. The native Australians, or Aborigines, have inhabited the continent for at least 40,000 years. They were hunters and gatherers, living a simple nomadic life. They lived in temporary mud dwellings and used lightweight, versatile tools, such as the boomerang, pictured on the left. Aborigines have a very special system of laws and beliefs known as the dream time. They believe that the Earth was created by giant serpents that rose up from the Earth's core, creating valleys, mountains, and rivers. One of them was the rainbow serpent, depicted in one of the drawings in Kakadu. Although few Aborigines now maintain a traditional nomadic lifestyle, their beliefs are still reflected in their spiritual life and culture. The pictures below show modern Aboriginal dot paintings. The Red Center. Kata Juta. In the middle of the Australian continent is the Red Center. The entire region is a desert, which means it gets very little rain during the whole year. As a result, the vegetation is very scarce, with mainly grass, shrubs, and solitary trees growing there. As the name suggests, the predominant color of the landscape is red. Red soil, red sand, red rocks, and red mountains. Look at the pictures on these pages. The red color of the Earth beautifully contrasts with a typically blue sky, making a journey to the Red Center a truly unforgettable experience. There are many interesting sites in the Red Center. One of them is Kata Chuta, also known as the Olgas. Kata Chuta means many heads in the Australian Aboriginal language. When you look at the photograph above, you will know why it is called that. There are more than 30 massive rocks bunched close together, rising from the desert floor. They are beautifully polished by the wind that mysteriously whistles in the narrow valleys separating the rounded stone masses.
A journey to the Red Center has always been one of my dream travel destinations. For a photographer and geographer, this ancient landscape is like no other place on Earth. The rugged mountain ranges, deep canyons, majestic monoliths, and vast empty plains are painted by nature in warm pastel colors. As the sun travels across the sky, the tones change during the day, providing endless photo-taking opportunities.
Kings Canyon. Kings Canyon is another spectacular formation that has been modeled by millions of years of erosion. Its 100-meter-high sandstone walls drop vertically to moist waterholes filled with lush green vegetation. The canyon is a paradise for geographers and geologists. Its walls contain many fossilized traces of some ancient marine creatures. Look at the small picture below. These bruises, which I photographed while hiking along the canyon, are beautifully preserved ripple marks of an ancient sea. Uluru. Uluru, or Ayers Rock, is one of the most recognizable symbols of Australia and one of the world's natural wonders. It is a monolith, or an enormous piece of sandstone, 3.6 kilometers long and 2.4 kilometers wide, standing 348 meters high above the flat desert. Like an iceberg, it reveals only a small part of its huge body. At least 2,100 meters are apparently hidden underground. Uluru is a sacred site to Aboriginal people who have lived in the area for at least 22,000 years. The local Anangu people believe that the rock was formed during the creation period, and the spirits that are still living there are responsible for protecting these lands. The name Uluru means Great Pebble in the Aboriginal language.
Uluru is a natural phenomenon. The bare rock changes color according to the sun's height and the weather. The colors can vary from bright red on sunny days to dark gray or black on cloudy days. The most spectacular color changes occur when the sun is rising or setting. This place is so famous, a special photo-taking spot has been set up for keen photographers.
Many people used to climb Uluru every day. However, due to its spiritual significance, Aboriginal people used to discourage visitors from doing it. Nowadays, climbing Uluru is forbidden. Coober Pedy. You are probably wondering why I included these pictures in this book. I know they may look very boring to you, but trust me, this is a very unique place. Let me explain why. Coober Pedy is a tiny place in the middle of the Australian outback, 850 kilometers north of the city of Adelaide. Find it on the map on page 7. This part of the Great Victoria Desert has an extremely hostile environment. Look at the background picture. It is a generally flat landscape with a few hills in the distance. There is not much vegetation as the area receives only 139 millimeters of rainfall a year. The most prominent landscape features are small conical hills. Still not very interesting for you? Read on. The hills are made of dirt dug up from the world's largest opal mines. Native Aboriginal people lived there for a long time, but the town was only established in 1915 when the first opal was discovered. Since then, Coober Pedy has evolved into one of the most unique places in Australia. Although it has a population of only about 3,500, it is a cosmopolitan town made up of over 45 different nationalities. Why do people from all over the world choose to live there? Well, Coober Pedy is the largest supplier of opal in the world, with an estimated 70% of the world's precious opal being mined there. So most of the people living there are zealous miners who are trying to make their opal dreams come true. How about you? Would you like to try your luck? Perhaps there is giant opal waiting for you. Strolling around Coober Pedy can be dangerous, especially at night. Therefore, such warning signs have been placed off the roads and paths. Do you know why there are not too many buildings in the town? The answer is that about half of the Coober Pedy residents live underground. The reason is very practical. In summer, outside temperatures go above 55 degrees Celsius, while temperatures can fall well below zero in winter. Underground, however, it is pleasantly cool in summer and warm in winter, so there is no need for air conditioning or heating. The only problem seems to be a lack of natural light, but the local people are used to living without it. Now that you know more about it, do you think you could live there? What are opals? Opals are rock minerals. They can occur in almost any color. However, only those that display different colors when viewed from different directions, or when the stone is turned, are considered precious. This phenomenon is called play of color. The finest examples of opals can be more valuable than diamonds.
Great Ocean Road.
The Great Ocean Road along the southeastern coast of Australia is one of the most spectacular scenic roads in the world. The coastal scenery there is simply breathtaking. There are huge vertical cliffs, secluded sandy beaches, tranquil bays that contrast with striking rocky islands, roaring surfs, and thundering caves and blowholes. The most impressive formations are the 12 Apostles, giant rock stacks rising majestically from the ocean. Over the past 10-20 million years, they have been formed by the elements, especially stormy ocean waters and blasting winds.
The coast along the Great Ocean Road is a very windy place. Turn the page and look at the big picture. You can see huge waves rolling across the shallow ocean floor. A few seconds later, they will hit the cliffs with enormous power, splashing high into the sky. The atmosphere of the place is absolutely amazing. The echoing noise of thundering water creates a feeling of being in a giant concert hall, while the setting sun colors the stage in warm and subtle tones. Some other places, like the grotto pictured on this page, are contrastingly an oasis of peace. Look at the stones, the yellowish rock, and the sky reflecting in the perfectly still water. It is a kind of magic that only nature knows.
The water and winds gradually erode the limestone, forming caves in the cliffs. The caves eventually become arches, sometimes forming complete double-span natural bridges. There is a story about the flat island in the top picture on the left. It used to be called London Bridge. Then one day, the part closest to the shore suddenly collapsed on 15 January 1990, leaving 2 tourists stranded on the outer part. They were rescued by a helicopter, and nobody was hurt. Now it is known as London Arch.
Exercises. Part 2. New Zealand.
Yachting is one of New Zealand's most popular leisure activities. There are around 135,000 yachts in the country, and almost half of them come from the Auckland region. When you look at the picture on the opposite page, you will know why Auckland is popularly known as the City of Sails. Are you ready to travel with me? Let's begin our fascinating journey around New Zealand.
Geography.
New Zealand is an archipelago located east of Australia. It is made up of 2 main islands, North Island and South Island, as well as lots of small ones. The first Maori settlers called it Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud, because of the clouds which helped them navigate there about 800 years ago. Although less spectacular, the North Island has some unique, distinctive features. The humid, winterless northern part is home to evergreen forests with massive, straight-trunked kauri trees. The island's spine is formed by volcanic mountain ranges running through the middle of it. Its gentle western and eastern slopes provide excellent geographical conditions for farming. This nearly perfect snow-covered cone of Mount Taranaki/Egmont is a dormant volcano that last erupted in 1775. The South Island of New Zealand has some of the most dramatic and striking scenery that Mother Nature has created anywhere in the world. The main geographical feature is a spectacular mountain range called the Southern Alps, which, like a backbone, stretches along the western side of the island. The northern part is more subdued, with golden sand beaches, quiet waterways, and vineyards. The Canterbury Plains, the largest area of flat land in New Zealand, is on the central east coast of the South Island. Further south are the rich, hilly farmlands of Otago and Southland. Look at the map on page 41. Tussock grasslands cover about 10% of New Zealand's land area. New Zealand has over 18,000 kilometers of dramatic coastline. The turquoise water surface of Lake Pukaki and the snowy Southern Alps.
Auckland.
With a population of just over 1 million, Auckland is the largest city in New Zealand. In fact, 1/3 of New Zealanders live there. Auckland is a truly cosmopolitan city, with Polynesians, Maoris, Europeans, and Asians living harmoniously together. Auckland is beautifully located, sandwiched between magnificent Waitemata and Manukau harbors. Water plays an important role in the city's life, so many of its tourist attractions are also associated with it. One of the most enjoyable things to do in Auckland is to take a leisurely stroll along West Haven Marina and the Viaduct Basin. There are hundreds of sailboats moored there, waiting for their short outings or longer adventurous trips. Like Sydney, Auckland also has its harbor bridge. It was built in 1959 to help improve traffic conditions. Look at the fabulous sunset picture of Auckland's skyline. It was taken from the top of Mount Victoria, a small hill and an extinct volcano in Devonport. The best way to get there is to take a ferry across Waitemata Harbor, like the fast ferries that travel between Hong Kong and the outlying islands. Right in the middle of the busy commercial district stands the 328-meter Sky Tower. It is one of the city's landmarks and the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere. In Devonport, just next to the ferry pier, grows the Pohutu Kawa, the iconic local Christmas tree, an important symbol for New Zealanders. It is famous for its beautiful crimson blossoms that adorn the tree for Christmas. Rotorua. The city of Rotorua is located on the shore of Lake Rotorua, about 270 kilometers from Auckland. The lake was formed in the crater of a large volcano that erupted 240,000 years ago. That kind of volcanic formation is called a caldera. Rotorua is a unique place. Steam rises from cracks, gardens, and even streets where people live. This, together with the distinctive scent of sulfur, similar to rotten eggs, indicate to visitors that they are in the center of an active thermal area. At Rotorua's southern edge is its most famous tourist attraction, the Wakareawera Thermal Area. For local Maori, the Wakareawera Valley is more than a natural wonder. According to tribal legend, this was the place where the goddesses of fire, Te Pupu and Te Hoata, emerged from the Earth's core, inhaling and exhaling, creating the geysers, hot springs, and mud pools. A geyser is a hot spring that periodically erupts, throwing water into the air. There are 7 active geysers there. The most famous one is called Pohutu, meaning big splash or explosion. In front of visitors, Pohutu usually erupts 10 to 25 times a day, up to 30 meters high, depending on its mood.
There is nothing more enjoyable for a geographer than to see his passion in action. Most natural processes we learn about happen very slowly, so what we see is the result of millions of years of activity. However, thankfully, in the case of volcanic activity, it is possible to see, touch, hear, smell, and even taste it. Rotorua is a perfect place to visit and experience Earth's anger lingering underneath.
Another volcanic feature is called a fumarole. A fumarole, from the Latin word fumus, meaning smoke, is an opening in the crust of the Earth where steam and gases come out, but without erupting like geysers do. The least spectacular, yet somehow otherworldly, are the mud pots, noun phrase, or mud pools. They are a sort of hot spring or fumarole, but filled with bubbling mud mixed with hot water.
For me, the Rotorua experience certainly was, as Jacek put it, otherworldly. When I was there, it was like being in some kind of weird science fiction movie. I imagined myself exploring the strange, volatile, yet somehow welcoming surface of some distant planet. I remember Pohutu Geyser leaping in the air, her water droplets gently caressing my face, the sound of the bubbling mud pots, the silent sulfur that assaulted my nose, and even the feast of flavors that embraced as I explored the area. It truly was a full sensory experience. I bought a small tub of mud to take home with me. I had been told it was great for the skin. When I returned home and covered my face in the healing mud, my imagination transported me back to that distant world. What a feeling.
Maori culture. Rotorua is the heartland of New Zealand's Maori culture. The Maori were the first settlers in New Zealand. They went there about 800 years ago from eastern Polynesia and spread their unique culture throughout the islands. The picture below shows a marae, an enclosed area of land where a waranui, or meeting house, literally big house, stands. They have beautifully carved wooden gable roofs and were used as important spiritual and decision-making centers. An abundance of quality timber inspired the Maori to develop a tradition of wood carving. Singing and dancing are also important features of Maori culture. The famous Maori war dance, traditionally performed by men, is one kind of haka they have. New Zealand rugby players perform a haka before the start of their rugby games. Have you ever seen them do it at the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens?
Come forward, visitors from afar. Welcome, welcome. Haere mai, haere mai. Bring with you the spirits of your dead, that they may be greeted, that they may be mourned. Ascend onto our marae, ascend the sacred marae of our people. Welcome, welcome. Haere mai, haere mai.
Tim Cahill, a travel writer, wrote, "A journey is best measured in friends rather than miles." I couldn't agree with him more. We certainly made many new friends when we were the guests at the Rotorua Marae. Just look at Gabrielle and this young boy. It is so wonderful how children everywhere connect. While at the marae, we enjoyed a traditional concert and hangi feast. It was a great introduction to the amazing Maori culture. Afterwards, when we realized we couldn't get a taxi back to our bed and breakfast, Hong Kong tourists, one of the men in charge of the marae generously offered to give us a lift in his car. At the hangi, we had been told about the manakitanga, the customs governing the manner in which visitors are welcomed into Maori homes. We learned that, as hosts, Maori people are expected to be guardians of the manuhiri, visitors, wenua, taonga, treasures, and tangata, the people. Well, that night we manahiri were certainly treated as taonga. As my taonga, Gabrielle, fell asleep in my arms during the drive, my husband and I made a new friend.
Cook Strait Crossing.
Crossing Cook Strait, a 19-kilometer stretch of water between the North and South Islands, was an unforgettable experience for me. Despite strong winds that tried to blow my head off, I really enjoyed traveling on the open deck. There were small fishing boats passing by and some jolly dolphins even accompanied us for a while, happily jumping over the waves. The most remarkable part of the trip was when the ferry was approaching the South Island. I thought that the boat was going to crash against the rocks and sink, but instead it suddenly turned left and entered a narrow water channel leading into the beautiful Queen Charlotte Sound.
On board Arahura, one of the ships cruising between Wellington and Picton. Arahura means pathway to dawn in Maori.
Ferries between Wellington in the north and Picton in the south are huge. There are cars, trucks, and even a whole train on board. The journey takes about 3 hours. The region in the South Island described in this chapter is called Marlborough Sounds. It is an extensive maze of deep channels and secluded bays embraced by hills covered with lush green vegetation. Sounds are deep river valleys that sometime in the past filled up with ocean water that rose because of melting glaciers. Queenstown. Queenstown is a resort in Otago region in the southwest of New Zealand's South Island. Built on the shore of Lake Wakatipu, surrounded by spectacular mountains, the town has become the #1 tourist destination in New Zealand.
Like most of the towns in the area, Queenstown was established during the 1860s gold rush noun phrase. In 1970, it was still a sleepy lakeside town, but thanks to its scenic setting, it has since remarkably transformed into a leading international resort. Despite the rapid tourist development, Queenstown still feels like a small town. Over the years, Queenstown has earned the nickname, the adventure capital of the world. It has become a mecca for tourists from all over the globe, which can satisfy even the most ravenous appetite for adventure. Those who are less adventurous can simply enjoy the beautiful scenery, go hiking, taste wine in one of the neighboring vineyards, play golf, or take a leisurely cruise on board the 1912 vintage steamer TSS Earnslaw.
A breathtaking panorama of Queenstown, Lake Wakatipu, and Remarkable's Range, taken from the top of Bob's Peak, 442 meters above sea level.
New Zealanders, or Kiwis as they are often called, are extremely friendly. Wherever I went, I was always greeted with free smiles and great service from people like this hospitable woman.
Adventure travel. Expect the unexpected is a motto of adrenaline-hungry people who do things that for ordinary human beings would seem unthinkable or even mad. People from the first group, who can be called adventurers, flock to Queenstown from all over the world, where they can fulfill almost all of their adventure dreams. In winter, the surrounding mountains turn into world-class ski slopes. Summer activities are centered around Lake Wakatipu and in many nearby rivers, where jet boat trips and whitewater rafting offer exciting rides through narrow, rocky canyons. Other thrilling adventures include skydiving, hang gliding, mountain biking, and rock climbing. Although popular all over the world, modern bungee jumping comes from New Zealand. It was created by A.J. Hackett, and the original jump was done from this 43-meter-high Kawarau Bridge, now the most famous jumping place near Queenstown. Bungee jumping. The most famous and the most popular adventure activity is bungee jumping. To do so, people who are connected to a special long rubber cord need to jump from a tall structure. The idea of bungee jumping originates from an ancient ritual in the Pacific archipelago of Vanuatu. According to legend, in a village called Boonlop, a man called Tamale had a quarrel with his wife. She ran away and climbed a banyan tree where she wrapped her ankles with liana vines. When Tamale climbed the tree to get her, she jumped from the tree. Her husband, not knowing that his clever wife had used the vines so that she would not hit the ground, jumped after her. So he died, but his wife survived. The men of Boonlop were very impressed by this. Soon, they began to practice such jumps in case something similar happened to them. This eventually turned into a ritual for a rich yam harvest and also for proving manhood.
In 1996, my husband and I went to Bali, Indonesia, for our honeymoon. There, we decided to begin our new life together by doing a 50-meter-high bungee jump over a magnificent river. I remember the total fear, the jump, the fall, the adrenaline rush, the experience of flying, and the joy of being alive at the end of it all. The men waiting down below said they had never heard anyone scream so loudly. They said my voice had echoed throughout the river valley. When I saw my husband, the first thing he said to me was, "Let's do it again, together this time." At that moment, I knew our life together would be an awesome adventure.
Skydiving.
I was right about it. 5 years into my marriage, I had my first child, Gabrielle. Our first trip abroad with her was to New Zealand. What do you do with a 6-month-old in New Zealand? Go skydiving, of course. I remember the small airplane and the crazy barefooted man I was attached to. Sitting on the edge of the plane, looking down, my life flashed before my eyes. I cannot describe in words the incredible force of the air on my face as I went free-falling through layers of clouds. Psychedelic images flashed through my consciousness. When the parachute went up, pulling us with it, I was a puppet on a string. Then, floating back to the earth was sweeter than any dream sleep had ever given me. After all of that, holding Gabrielle in my arms again was the best feeling of all. For those of you who are still wondering, she did not jump with us. Come on, even I'm not that crazy.
Mountain biking. Kayaking. Rock climbing.
Believe it or not, this is me in my nimbler days.
Jet boating. Whitewater rafting. Lake Matheson.
There is a place in New Zealand that swept me off my feet. It's not that I didn't expect it. Before I went to New Zealand, I had seen dozens of stunning photographs of Lake Matheson. The problem is that it rains cats and dogs idiom most of the time there, and it takes a miracle to get a dream shot. I was really lucky. Look at the pictures on this page. The views were absolutely sensational that day. The highest mountains in New Zealand were beautifully clothed in fresh snow. The pine trees only showed their silhouettes in the early morning light. Their reflection in the perfectly still water of the lake, together with the morning mist and steel clouds, created an atmosphere beyond serenity.
This spot around Lake Matheson is called the View of the Views. Not a bit of an exaggeration, is it? West Coast, the glaciers. West Coast, the glacier. A glacier is a large body of ice moving slowly down a slope or valley. There are two glaciers cutting through dramatic valleys towards the west coast, the Fox and Franz Josef glaciers. It is time for a short geography lesson. Glaciers are created at large, high-altitude basins called névé. The western slopes of the southern Alps receive about 30 meters of fresh snow a year. The snow accumulates in those névé, slowly turning into blue ice. This ice flows downhill under the pressure of its own weight and the forces of gravity. Glaciers move slowly, at a rate of about 1.5 meters a day. Their huge bodies scour the mountainsides, creating U-shaped valleys. When the ice melts, glaciers end.
Fiordland National Park. Fiordland National Park occupies the southwest corner of the South Island of New Zealand. It is the largest national park in New Zealand, with an area of 12,500 square kilometers. The 121-kilometer Milford Road that winds through the park has deservedly earned World Heritage status for its beauty and scenic variety. Noun, Dobien. This includes rugged mountains, cascading alpine rivers, and picturesque walks. Dense forests cover all of the park, up to an elevation of around 1,000 meters. There are many shrubs, ferns, and fern trees. Mosses form deep cushions that cover the ground, tree trunks, and branches.
In the northern hemisphere, the north side of trees and rocks usually have more moss than other sides. Do you know why? Here's a hint. It has something to do with the amount of water that is determined by the direction of the sun. What about New Zealand? Where do you think more moss grows?
Kea. The kea is an unusual species of parrot found nowhere else in the world except the mountains of the South Island. Kea are not afraid of people and can sometimes be quite annoying. Their curiosity leads them to peck and carry away unguarded items of clothing and rubber parts of cars. As the road climbs higher, green forests give way to shrubs, grasses, lichens, and eventually bare rocks. Now you have entered the alpine vegetation zone. Here, all of the plants have adapted to survive in the harsh climatic conditions. Milford Sound. Milford Sound is a 16-kilometer-long fjord and Fiordland's best-known tourist attraction. As you already know, sounds are flooded river valleys. Fjords are valleys carved by the tremendous pressure and the power of glaciers. They were formed during ice ages. When the climate warmed up, the glaciers receded, and fjords were flooded by the sea that rose when the ice melted. The best way to see the fjord and enjoy its unusual beauty is to take a boat trip all the way to the ocean and back. There are many spectacular waterfalls around Milford Sound. This background picture shows Bowen Falls, dropping 160 meters directly to the sea. The 146-meter-high Stirling Falls, above Fiordland.
I was absolutely overwhelmed by the beauty of Fiordland. I had seen it already from the road and from the sea. After that, I had an unstoppable desire to admire it from a different perspective, from the air. A small helicopter like a giant falcon lifted me above the navy blue water of Milford Sound. Right in front of my eyes stood a majestic pyramid, Mitre Peak, rising straight from the deep fjord. The scenery was simply breathtaking. My steel bird took me high above the steep rocky cliffs, hanging valleys, alpine lakes, tumbling waterfalls, cracked glaciers, and snow-clad mountain tops. Then suddenly, the chopper gently touched down on the high mountain col that was covered with pristine fresh snow.
A bird's-eye view of Milford Sound with the pyramid-shaped Mitre Peak, 1,692 meters, in the middle. Lake Pukaki.
For a photographer, the best times for taking landscape photos are early in the morning and late in the afternoon. I had heard of the beauty of Lake Pukaki with its turquoise water and the snow-covered southern Alps in the background. To take a perfect shot, I had to get up before sunrise at 5 a.m. As my friend Ruth Meyer and I drove towards the lake, the valley near Omarama was filled with a silky pinkish cushion of morning fog. When we finally got there, we realized that we were not the only early birds looking for the best light. 2 professional photographers were already waiting there. They had set up their tripods in front of the beautiful flowery shrub pictured below, which was used as a foreground for their pictures. Of course, I took a photograph too.
Early morning at the shore of Lake Pukaki. Aoraki, Mount Cook. Standing at 3,754 meters, Oriaki/Mount Cook is the highest mountain in New Zealand. The magnificent alpine region that surrounds the mountain, including 5 large valley systems and 19 peaks over 3,000 meters, is protected by a national park. The glaciers that have helped shape the park's landscape cover 40% of the area. The 27-kilometer-long Tasman Glacier, clearly seen from the main highway, is the longest one in the country. The scenic road that leads to the park is incredibly spectacular and, interestingly, is often blocked by huge herds of countless sheep. You can see this in the picture on the right and back on page 5. Mount Selton and Mount Cook dominate the landscape of Ororaki/Mount Cook National Park. Hiking in the Hooker Valley.
Hiking in the Hooker Valley. I am a big mountain buff. I used to climb or hike in different mountain ranges all over the world, so I wanted to do it in New Zealand too. I chose the short but dazzling Hooker Valley track leading up to the glacier at the foot of Mt. Cook. I followed a narrow trail, gently climbing along the Hooker River that, like a silver ribbon, meandered around hills and lakes. A couple of hours later, I reached my destination, the Hooker Glacier Terminal Lake. I sat down and quietly contemplated the beauty of the Southern Alps.
A fabulous panorama of Mount Cook, taken from Hooker Lake. Lakes in New Zealand.
New Zealand lakes captivate me. They come in different shapes and sizes. Their shores are covered with different vegetation. They come in different colors, ranging from pale turquoise through various shades of blue or green, gray to nearly black. What do they all have in common? They are absolutely stunning, infusing visitors with an unparalleled feeling of peace and tranquility. There are many beautiful lakes in this book. You might want to browse through the pages to enjoy them again. Let them fill you with serenity.
A family enjoys reading on the shore of Lake Tekapo. Fields of lupines, like the ones growing in the foreground, decorate New Zealand. New Zealand sheep. New Zealand has a temperate climate, ample rainfall in most areas, and plenty of land suitable for pastoral farming. Sheep farming is one of the most important parts of the country's economy. The first sheep were brought to New Zealand by Captain Cook in 1773. Now, there are more than 49 million sheep in the country, which is about 14 sheep per person. Jacek's Travel Diary.
Honestly, I am not a fan of big cities. I prefer going to the countryside to enjoy the natural environment. Having said so, to my surprise, I actually enjoyed visiting Christchurch, the largest city on the southern island of New Zealand. Founded over 150 years ago, the city has retained its British character, with striking Gothic architecture and beautiful stone buildings. There is also lots of greenery with lush green parks and flower-filled gardens that have given Christchurch its nickname, the Garden City. To make it even more British, the Avon River gently meanders through the town. Look at the pictures below. Isn't it lovely there? The grassy banks of the river are shaded by weeping willows and old oak trees. Boat trips are one of the major tourist attractions of Christchurch. Edwardian punters gently glide visitors along the peaceful river, just like in Cambridge in England. In the case of Christchurch, the new settlers brought pieces of their old life with them, then combined these with the gifts of their new home to make something unique again. Life is like that. When we travel, we take pieces of the places as we continue our life journey. Our lives are constantly being reshaped by the experiences we gather along the way. New Zealand is a vine-growing country. There are hundreds of vineyards scattered around both islands. The most famous white wines of Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay varieties come from the Marlborough region. Pinot Noir is the most widely planted red grape variety in the Martinborough region. Many tourists join organized winery tours as drinking and driving is not allowed. Australia is probably the country with the largest variety of unusual road signs. Most of them are related to its unique wildlife. Now that you have read this book, you can figure out where these road signs were placed. The Beware of Kangaroos sign is probably the most common of all animal signs in Australia. Actually, kangaroos are responsible for many traffic accidents there. Some cars, especially big trucks, even have special protection bumpers installed. The koala sign was one of the cutest I have seen anywhere. Do you remember where I went for my koala quest? The third sign informs people of a very serious threat. I don't need to tell you what happens to some people who ignore this sign. When you travel, look carefully around you. You will be surprised and delighted by how the little things can enrich your travel experience. Reflections. I believe you have noticed that I love traveling very much and I take it very seriously. Everywhere I go, I try to learn as much as I can. I look for things that and people who can inspire my soul and help me become a better person. Traveling can be hard work. Just imagine walking along steep mountain trails, carrying a heavy backpack and a big camera with a few lenses. The sun is shining very strongly. Sweat is pouring off your forehead and stinging your eyes. It has happened to me many times. Why do I do it? Because I love it. Sometimes I have to spend many hours traveling on a crowded bus, squeezed between some people who seem like they have not taken a shower for a long time, as my head pounds against the roof of a bus on every bump. I get very sweaty, smelly, dazed, and exhausted, but I still love it. Taking pictures is very important for me. I just can't imagine traveling without doing it. Photos help preserve my precious memories and allow me to share them with people around me, like you. I always try to enjoy every moment of my travels, even when I go around Hong Kong. I hope you will follow my example. Remember, you don't have to go far to appreciate the world around you. Just open the door and let your journey of discovery begin.
Exercises.
Jacek Piwowarczyk and Cynthia Lee. English in My Backpack. Volume 2. Adventures Down Under. Buddhist Fat Ho Memorial College, 2009.